Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Zero to Empire podcast. On this episode, I have Chris Grinsted, and he's the founder of Wellspring Coaching and Transformation. And he's going to be talking about his journey and what actually led him to becoming a coach today. So, Chris, so much for being on the podcast. And my first question to you is actually what inspired you to become a transformation and leadership coach? What led you to become where you are today?
Sam, thanks so much for having me here. It's a real privilege to be here. What got me into or interested or inspired into the coaching field really was working with a coach myself for the first time. It was several years ago, 2019. I was really in a moment of breakdown in my life. I was wildly unfulfilled at work. I was staring down the barrel of the end of a very long relationship, a marriage. And I was really in a place of crisis, spiritually speaking, in my spiritual self. And so someone, a good friend of mine, suggested, "Hey, why don't you engage with a coach and see what happens?" And so I got a referral, I got a recommendation, started working with a coach named Ken Diller, and worked with him for about a year. And it had such an impact on me that as I started to contemplate my purpose and my what's next several years down the road after that, that's really the first thing that came back was yes, in my corporate career, the parts of my corporate career that I really found that I really aligned with and really felt empowering and that really I enjoyed the most were the moments when I was in a mentorship role or helping to coach others to see their potential and to expand into it. And then kind of putting that together with my work with Ken, I said, I think that's what I want to do. So that's when I made that decision to embark on the coaching path.
That's solid, and I'm glad that you're a coach today. And when it comes to your previous job that actually made you feel unfulfilled, what was there an exact moment or experience that led you to not feel like that?
So for the previous 7 years, 6 or 7 years leading up to that, my beginning of working with Ken, I've been working at Google, and that's one of those places where when you get to Google, it's like you've made it. It's like this is the top of the mountain. Everyone wants to go work at this prestigious, big name, with all the bells and whistles. They're wildly overcompensated, all the things, right? And I remember feeling stuck, like the golden handcuffs were so real. I didn't I felt very small in my role. I felt very constrained in what I was being asked to do, and every time I would look to kind of expand and do more, it didn't seem that that opportunity was provided. There was uh, allowed there. And don't get me wrong, I really really enjoy the people that I worked with, and it was a great company to work for. But I felt that it was time for me. I needed more, and I didn't know how I could leave because it was so comfortable, because it was part of identity of like, you've made it to this place. Who leaves this place, kind of a thing, right? So that was really the struggle that I was working through. And I would say the moment, I don't know if there was one moment, but it was just this kind of gradual build of awareness and understanding that the direction that I'm going and that the direction the company is going just weren't aligned.
Yeah, that makes sense. And what was it like leaving the corporate world? Before we actually talked about this, but you were in there for over 30 years,
Mm.
and like, what did it feel like leaving that and actually starting your own business?
Um, Really, really exhilarating, freeing, and mildly terrifying, right? Leaving that security blanket, like that comfort of knowing that the regular paycheck is going to come. Of course, you never know what's going to happen in the economy in terms of layoffs or reductions or et cetera. But you know you're going to get paid every week or every other week, kind of a thing. And so I think it was a financial kind of a I guess I'll call it a risk, but it really was kind of stepping out into the unknown in terms of how the household finances will work. And it also, I was surprised at how deeply it kind of touched my identity and who I am in both really empowering ways and also some ways that surprised me, right? Stepping forward as an entrepreneur felt like I was stepping into my power, like I was standing into something important and really expressing myself in the world. Um, and then I look around and I see so many people that I know, so many people in community, so many people in my circle, for whom their identity still is. A big part of their identity is the work that they do, the position they have, the company they work for, et cetera. So I felt a little bit of a disconnect and a little dissonance there with much of my circle. So it was the experience was very exhilarating. It still is exciting and exhilarating. Building a practice, building a business from the ground up. And also, I'm just noticing some things that are a little bit surprising to me in terms of what happens.
Yeah, that's fair. And before this, we actually talked about how your wife made an impact on you actually becoming into a coach. So how did that all come about?
Yeah, yeah. So my wife Monica, she left the corporate world about 3 years before I did. She was in kind of a similar but different crisis of or breakdown of alignment with who she is and then what she was being asked to do. And so she stepped out of the corporate world and really showed me the way. She explored a lot of different paths um, that are heart-based paths for her, right? So she really follows what she calls her path of heart, as opposed to following kind of the shoulds, like the things that our parents give us when we're kids of like, oh, you should be a doctor, or you should get this job, or you should make this much money, or whatever it is. She began to really follow her own inner knowing and her path of heart. That was so inspiring for me. That was what really started me thinking like, what could that look like for me? And to get me started on really committing to this path of stepping into my own path of heart.
That's great. And when it comes to your own clientele, who are they usually?
Mm. So after having 30 years in the corporate world, right? Obviously, I speak the language very well. Like I understand corp speak, if you will. Um, and so most of my clients, my ideal clients, are people who are in the corporate world and who are dissatisfied with some aspect of their life. It could be their job, right? It could be relationship, it could be finances, it could be spirituality, it could be any part of their life. But my work with them is to really partner with them to um, understand what beliefs they're holding that might be limiting, right? How they show up in the world, and just work with them to expand their ability, expand the realm of what's possible for them and the things that they believe about themselves, about others, about the world around them. And then also to help them expand their ability to act upon this, more expanded set of beliefs. So marrying those two things of kind of understanding the belief systems that we hold and expanding those, stepping forward into action and expanding that, it can't help but drive different, greater outcomes, right? You're stepping into greater possibility in terms of the results that you generate in your life in any one of those domains. So a lot of times, yeah, it is something. It's leadership coaching. It's something around career. It's very work oriented. And what I often find is that we are who we are, right? And so the work that we do in one aspect of our life tends to impact all the others, right? Either for good or for bad, right? For up or for down. It either expands or constricts our entire being.
Yeah, it makes sense. And it comes down to action for sure.
Absolutely.
And can you actually tell us a client breakthrough moment that made an impact on you thus so far?
Yeah. Yeah. One of the first clients that I worked with, marketing executive, marketing leader, who had been impacted in some layoffs. So he was currently looking for a job and feeling stressed about it, right? He was feeling a little angsty. He was probably, I would say, mid 50s. And he's looking around going, it's a TikTok world. Who's going to hire this old fuddy duddy, right? Like he has these beliefs that he's holding about how he shows up in a rapidly evolving environment, right? The circumstance of his life. So we're working with him on, kind of shifting some of those beliefs and crafting some actions. And in the course of this conversation, it came out that he doesn't actually like marketing. And it's just one of those things where when he got out of university, is like the first job he got was in the marketing field, and he just kind of went through his whole career in a field that was completely random. It just happened to be the first job that he got. And so I asked him, well, what would you like to do? And he said, I'd love to be a truck driver. Like, wow, a truck driver, tell me more. And so he explained his exploration. He loves to see and feel and touch newness and explore, right? Get out there and learn about different parts. And what better way to learn about different parts of the country or different parts of the world than at the ground level, right? So if you can get paid to go and visit go and drive to all these places and visit them and stop off at the roadside diners and talk to people, right? That's what was like his dream. And so, yeah, we expanded on that. We expounded on that. I caught up with him recently, he he did get a marketing job, right? To pay the bills. He's got a daughter in university, and he's going to the classes. He's got his commercial driver's license. He's like building the path towards, once he's able to set up some obligations that he has in relationship with family, with his wife, with his daughter, that if he chooses to, he'll have the ability to step into that, into fulfilling his dream, being a truck driver.
That's great. You're able to help him find what he actually really wanted to do with his life, and honestly, more people should. And is that like the most common story or belief that you help your clients rewrite, or is that something
Mm.
else?
Yeah, I would say the most common story that the clients bring. Well, I would say most people go through life shoulding all over themselves, right? I should do this, I should be that, I should, as opposed to saying, what is it that I want, right? How do I want to show up? See, it's almost like an outside in way of motivation. Other people think, my parents told me, the expectation of my spouse, like whatever it is, the shoulds show up really predominantly. So I would say that is one of the biggest stories that I work with my clients to shift in their being, is the things that they should do versus they feel that they should do versus the things that they actually want to do, and help them step forward powerfully into that.
That's solid, and I'm glad you're making that impact on them. And what would you say is your coaching structure looking like? One-on-ones, group, hybrid, programs, etc.
Yeah, it's all of the above. I would say the part of my practice that I really enjoy the most is one-on-one, because you can really get deep and really drive impact, and being with individuals, in that kind of private container of the one-on-one work. And that's not for everyone. So I do also offer group coaching programs as well. Small groups. We don't no more than six, no fewer than three, right? So there's kind of a cohort feel. You have the support structure built in. And then I do also offer workshop series, kind of Life 101 or boot camp kind of series as well. And that's on the life coaching side. And then I have another kind of a corporate workshop series that I pulled together, bringing some of these principles of being, of ontology, into like a team setting, and helping teams really grasp and understand themselves, but also the function, the identity of the team, and what the superpower of the team is.
That's solid. And that's really cool that you do all that. And before this, we actually talked about how you believe that transformation in one area of your life touches every other,
Mhm.
such affects it. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Um, how we do one thing is how we do everything, right? Because it all goes down to these beliefs, these core beliefs that we hold about ourselves, about others, about the world around us. It's expressed in different ways when we go to work versus when we're in a relationship versus, when we go to the bank. Like, it shows up, perhaps in different expressions, but these core beliefs are persistent, right? They're something that's core to us. That's why they're called core beliefs. And so really understanding those, and again, the idea is not to make wrong, right? It's not that anyone's belief system is wrong. What happens is they get limited, right? They get small, constrained. And so the work is to expand the belief of what's possible, right? And when you can expand that belief of what's possible, then you can act with more breadth, right? So, and again, imagine if you are focused on, like Sam, if I'm working with you and you're focused on an area of work, right, in your job, and you say, I really want to get a promotion. Well, the work that we would do to help set you up and for success in that, and to achieve that outcome that you want, can't help but also show up at home with your partner, with your spouse. Can't help but also show up, in your bank account, right? When you get that promotion, when you get that raise. So it's all kind of connected, because it's all you. It's all part of your being and who you are.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better. And when you look back now, what would you tell yourself on the day you left Google?
Good job. Right? I think at first I want to answer something like with judgment, like, oh, why did you wait so long? um, but I think I would really congratulate and express appreciation for myself for having the courage to stand up and uh, say what it is that I really want, and say what it is that I really don't want, right? But to express that boldly, and to take action. Um, it's one of those things where I can hold this knowing that this isn't for me forever, and that wouldn't serve me, right? So I chose to actually act on it, to step forward into action. Um, And yeah, it wasn't always easy. It wasn't, certainly it's a very different. I went from Google into a startup, and then recently departed the startup to focus exclusively on my coaching practice. And so there's a big financial difference, right? Going from a big tech company into the startup world. But that was on purpose. And I knew that that's what was for me and what I needed to do. Um, so yeah, I would tell myself, congratulations. Um, you made the choice that's most empowered for you. And I'm excited to see what's next.
That's great. And I believe in you. And how can those actually interested in getting your coaching find you and reach out to you by?
Hmm. So my website is www.wellspring.coach. That's wellspring.coach. And on there that you can book time with me. You can see a lot of more about my offerings, the different um, services that I offer, both on the life coaching side and on the the corporate and leadership coaching side. Yeah. And then on there, you can just click the button, book some time with me, and would love to sit down and have a chat with anyone who's interested about what coaching, especially ontological, this deep being level coaching, might unlock for them. And if nothing else, I just like meeting people. So put some time on my calendar. We'll have a coffee and just like to get to know you a little bit.
That's great. And make sure you go check out Chris and get his coaching. And thanks so much for being on the podcast as well, Chris. And I'll see everyone in the next episode of Zero to Empire.